It's a brand new week here on Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us and for being a part of the conversations today. We hope you've had a good weekend and we trust you are tuned in to Breakfast Extra to keep you updated on some of the biggest stories happening around the country. Now this morning, we're also joined by someone from Breakfast Extra to give you some sort of a spice between Breakfast Central and Breakfast Extra. But first, I am Olive Emodi. We're joined this morning by Mazino.
Well, thank you very much, Olive. It feels very good. No, actually, no, it doesn't. It does feel good to be here with you, but only from after yesterday when I thought today was going to be my holiday. But
I know, right?
It's okay.
No, but it's a great blend to see Breakfast Extra and Breakfast Central coming together.
Yeah, we are one family after all, aren't we? So, hey.
Mazino, so many stories. We've seen so many stories on social media, in the news, but I would think that the most jarring one for now would be the abducted doctors. And now we're seeing that the resident doctors have threatened a prolonged strike if the colleagues are not returned safely. Security has been it's been a major conversation for a while now. It just feels like every other day there's one conversation. We had, there was a man, I'm trying to remember his name now. We talked about him every time on the show. Thankfully, his family has been released. He and his wife and his 3 kids were kidnapped. Unfortunately, his first son, Victor, was killed by the abductors. So he rallied around, and I don't know what the procedure was towards the end, if they paid the abductors or not, but the family was returned to him. But it's just a very sad time here in Nigeria, not just because recently we had a conversation about the work that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his current administration are looking forward to doing with regards to the health sector, how they're trying to revamp the health sector in a way that attracts
doctors back to Nigeria.
Exactly, to convince the ones that are here to stay, to urge the ones that are abroad to return. But with incidences like this,
so we had this discussion.
I don't know how that is going to progress.
We had this discussion on Breakfast Extra only just on Saturday, and we actually had doctors in who talked about it. Now, never did I think that there would be such a time where we would have doctors actually protesting about something like insecurity. It's the first time it's ever happened. And for every discussion that we had on Saturday, one thing seems to be the one stem, and that was that there was so much insecurity in Nigeria. It's affecting everything from our doctors to our food production and farmers. And perhaps maybe that's the one thing we have to set policies for. Maybe we're looking at the wrong things when we set policies for this and that. But security, if everybody feels secure, then perhaps maybe you'll have people who are, willing to come back to Nigeria. We also asked a question about the number of doctors, the specific number which was put in there, 12,400 doctors with whom they're, hoping would come back to Nigeria. And the problem was, if you're saying you're bringing back 12,400 people, how are you going to perhaps, reintegrate them
back
if the system that you have in Nigeria is not exactly what obtains outside of there where they're used to? What makes it attractive to come back here, like you've said, when there's so much insecurity? I mean,
when we talk about even the whole jackpot trend, when we see young Nigerians leaving the country looking for a better life abroad, I have argued that the reason that a number of young Nigerians and even older Nigerians are leaving the country is not necessarily because of money. Money is one of the factors, yes, they feel that they can earn better. But it's the quality of life that you get to live in Nigeria. Many people would say that there's no middle class anymore. Some would disagree with that, right? But regardless of what class you are one illness away from becoming bankrupt, to becoming very broke in Nigeria. If right now you're living a fairly decent life, that's one. 2, you're not quite guaranteed of your safety in certain areas. People just want the idea that they can go to work and come back and know that they're coming back home, they're safe.
Do you feel safe in Lagos? When you leave in the morning and come to work, do you feel safe? Well, let's start with the unit Lagos.
My insurance is the blood of Jesus.
At least you've got insurance. But it's just a micro instance of the greater instance that we suffer here in Nigeria. That comfort you're talking about, the people don't have, the people don't seem to get. And that's why they want a better system. Some people are even considering relocating to other African countries, and I have given it a thought. Exactly.
So when people say it's not necessarily about the strength of our passport and the fact that when you get a foreign passport, you have access to travel to other countries. That's great. But at the end of the day, what Nigerians are asking for, what they are asking for from this administration, from the administrations before is a fairly decent life. The right to be able to wake up, go to work, and know that someone won't kidnap you on the way to work. Nigerians want to be able to say that when they're paying taxes, they're seeing what their taxes are doing, that they're not scared of the potholes on the road destroying their vehicles every time. Nigerians want to be sure that the people who are there, as their leaders, as their lawmakers, are not there to enrich their own personal pockets. Yet, today we're arguing about if they're earning 1 million naira or they're earning over 27 million naira cumulatively. And the various stories are quite heartbreaking to hear. But these stories are some of the conversations we'll be exploring this morning on the show.
Morning and welcome. My name is Mazino Peel. Let's do breakfast headlines. We begin with the controversy surrounding a failed contract awarded by the Ogun State government to a Chinese firm, which has once again cast a rather negative spotlight on Nigeria. This time, Professor of Political Economy Pat Utomi has alleged that the former governor of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun, violated a contract he entered with his government. Utomi made the statement in response to Amosun's admission that he had cancelled an agreement with Zhongshan Fengsheng Industry Investment Co. Limited, a Chinese company. And meanwhile, former governor of Ogun State, Senator Ibikunle Amosun, has described the renowned professor of political economy, Pat Utomi, as an enemy of the state. Amosun stated this while responding to a post on X, where Utomi alleged that Amosun did not honor an agreement preceding his administration. The former governor of Ogun State also hinted that the State House of Assembly had already declared Utomi persona non grata. In the meantime, a former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, has attributed the country's stagnation to what he described as self-centered leadership lacking relevant knowledge. Obasanjo made these remarks in the capital of Ogun State, Abeokuta, while speaking as a special guest of honor at the Leadership Empowerment International Conference. According to him, leadership is a lasting virtue that endures until the end of one's life. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has urged the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, to disclose the exact amount of monthly running cost allotted to members of the National Assembly. SERAP requested the spending details of any of such running costs as well. This information was made known in a statement dated August 17, 2024, signed by Deputy Director of SERAP, Kolawole Oluwadare. The group's demand is coming on the heels of the recent controversy surrounding the salaries of senators. Gunmen have abducted 3 persons in Enugu State College of Health Technology in Orji Rivers local government area of the state. The Enugu State Police Public Relations Officer DSP Daniel Ndukwe confirmed this in a statement. Ndukwe said the Orji River Division of the command responded swiftly to the site following reports of an alleged kidnapping near the college, saving 2 of the victims. The remaining 3 are still unaccounted for. However, he stated that intensive efforts are being made to find and free them, as well as capture their kidnappers. The news continues in North Africa, where the Central Bank of Libya said on Sunday it was suspending all operations after a bank official was abducted in the capital Tripoli. In a statement posted on social media, Musab Msalem, head of information technology at the central bank, was kidnapped by an unidentified group from his house Sunday morning. And that's all the news we have on breakfast headlines. My name is Mazino Peel, and now back to Olive.
Well, very interesting stories that you've mentioned there. I think I'd like to just highlight the conversation of former President Olusegun Obasanjo saying that our challenge is that we have selfish leaders. I'd like to highlight that I saw an interview where former Senator Elisha Abo was sharing and speaking about what is being earned by the senators, by our lawmakers, and he shared and in a way attempted to defend what was being earned or what is being earned. I recall a part of the interview where he said he was richer before he came into office as a lawmaker, where he talked about him having his own private business, trying to build a mansion, but unfortunately couldn't complete it as a result of him coming into office, and stating that, and when he was being asked why he didn't resign, if he felt he was a lot poorer, he said it was because he loves to serve. And we're saying to Nigerian lawmakers, please, The people who have elected and appointed you to represent them are complaining about the fact that everyone has to tighten their pockets, but they don't see that being reflected with the lawmakers. So if you feel that being a lawmaker and what you're earning is not commensurate to what you would have earned before you came into office, kindly do the right thing and step down. The right thing would be to ensure that someone who is there, is there to serve and not there for monetary gains. And right now, Nigerians don't seem to agree with you. Or better still, like SERAP has asked, just show us exactly how much you're earning. It's not hard. While RMA, FAC will come out with their own statements, talking about salaries and saying at the end of the day that it's the cumulative earning that is being spoken about. It's not hard. Show us how much you're earning. And if Nigerians feel that it's too much, that needs to be regulated, that needs to be cut, that needs to be checked. But Mazino, I don't know. I honestly do not see that happening. I honestly do not see Nigerian senators being confident and bold enough to say, okay, this is exactly how much we're earning cumulatively. This is our last alert for the month of July. And this is what came in total. And a number of the defenses I've heard is that they spend so much money meeting their constituents' needs. People have hospital bills to pay.
Yeah, but that's separate from your salary, I would like to think.
So at the end of the day, they will tell you that the money they're getting, they're putting back into the constituents. Well, the constituents have now come back to complain that they are not seeing the effect of it and that people are earning too much money. Too much.
The president himself, Bola Tinubu, has actually done something when he says that we're going to spend less when it comes to kind of people who we go to meetings, international meetings or international affairs with. Is that a start, would you think?
I don't know that that's
because
a start.
That's a very big contingent we always
if we're being
carry
honest
each
with
time.
ourselves, we're being honest. Whilst you might applaud that, we're not really ready to cut down on spending. This present administration is not ready to do whatever it needs to do to ensure that Nigerians are guaranteed a decent quality of life in the sense of cutting down the cost of governance. An administration that has a bloated cabinet, the most bloated so far, is an administration that looks to you like it's ready to cut down the cost of governance. We talked about the Obasanjo report, and they set up a committee to ensure the implementation of the Obasanjo report. Gave them 12 weeks. Till today, what have we heard about the implementation of this report? So at the end of the day, it's unfortunate that what we have is an administration that pays lip service to actually cutting down the cost of governance. It doesn't look like they are interested in cutting down the cost of governance. When they are ready, we will know. Many have argued that lawmakers should have their salaries equivalent to that of civil servants. If that ever happens, you will see how many people will run for office. If today they put all of them on the same earning field, you will see that it's not really about...
Perhaps maybe that will be the way to go then.
Yeah, but I don't see that happening.
Well, keep your fingers crossed, I guess.
All right, fingers crossed. All right, we'll go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about some more stories this morning. Stay with us on Breakfast Central. Now we're heading to Borno, talking about the untold stories of out-of-school children in Borno, a growing crisis. The streets of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, are home to many children who have fled due to the insurgency brought in from other parts of Nigeria. These children face an uncertain future as they struggle to survive and navigate life outside the safety of their homes. News Central's Umaru Kirawa, who interacted with the street children, reports on their lifestyle and some of the untold stories of the future generation. Let's take a look.
A normal peaceful day for everyone struggling to survive in Nigeria's northeast state of Borno. The echoes of the years of conflict is gradually fading away in towns and villages. According to the state government, from 2 million, Borno state now battles with about 800,000 out-of-school children who roam the streets for survival.
Shine abunda yasa muka zo muna fita muna bara.
The story of Ba Usman is different as he is pursuing Islamic studies at a Sangaya with keen interest and an ambition to become a pilot. For many, there is no difference between out of school, abandoned or street children and the Almajiri who strive to gain Islamic knowledge.
Street children are those that were abandoned by their parents, but Almajiris are those that are already registered to various schools and institutions. Those children that he interacted with, amongst them are up to 87,000 that were registered by the state government. But these 87,000 that were registered by government under the custody of government is not even up to 5% of these children.
However, the narrative is that both the abandoned, out of school, and Almajiri all beg for food on the street to survive.
First, if the government is serious, they could have restored constitutional mandate for the traditional institutions. The traditional institution is very much connected with the community, with the society. The Nigerian state is completely disconnected from the community. The Nigerian government is not sensitive to the sensibilities of the community. They are absent. The government may have attempted to restore some sorts of financial autonomy to the local government, but this stopped at the political level. The councillor and their chairman, which were not even known to the people of the community.
The situation is dire for these street children who often lack access to basic necessities and are vulnerable to exploitation like rape and harvest of organs, among others.
Kamar bakin bulabarin na, especially kamar wannan da yake kwanciya nan, irin su ne, to mun sha koran su ba su da gurin kwanciya, ba su da gurin da zo na, wani sa ma mun gana ruwa kama damuna rumfan shagunan mutanen suke samu suke makalewa. In ka zo ka gani ma to sai ne ma, kamar yanzu ma ko wanda ya fadi a gaban mu ma, ashe yunwa ne.
Nan da muna ya ande kotu ya kamata ta gwamnati ande talabijin ande wana la kaza ande akira la rosuka ande kumunde intaction malambonde welu edi alambone so duk lamone ba.
In the case of the Almajiris, while some are out on the street in the daytime and return to their parents' home later in the day, others are accommodated in boarding facilities where they sleep in their schools. However, feeding these Almajiris remains one of the major challenges of the system, forcing the children to roam the streets begging.
Let's now start forming groups within communities that will be addressing maybe the educational needs of these children. Some will focus on maybe entrepreneurship.
It is not mandatory for everybody to marry. There are criteria. Apart from maturity, are you fit mentally, physically, and morally, in addition to financial capacity to take care of the needs of the one that you will bring under your care?
As part of the measures to address this menace, the Borno state has built mega schools such as this to meet to the growing number of out-of-school children, but it seems to be inadequate.
What matters is our population, and then what matters is we don't know who is working in the state, and unless something is being done, we shall not get rid of this problem.
The government says it is taking steps to monitor and control the influx of unaccompanied children to the state. However, the challenge remains.
In this late night hours, I met one of my friends, Abubakar Adam, who usually sleeps here, and he will tell us more about the experience here. As you can see, mosquitoes are everywhere, and this is where these children are sleeping. The point here is, it is not about complaining or pointing accusing fingers, but most importantly, an action is needed to address the issue of street children. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Well done, Umar Kirawa. That was a really, really good, detailed report, but very sad, just x-raying what a number of these children have to go through. I think the opening interview with the young boy who said his parents had been killed and he doesn't have, enough to feed, the price of goods and services have skyrocketed and he's unable to make ends meet. It's really very sad and shocking to see this. Maybe not shocking. I mean, this has been the reality. And, much later, we're going to talk about what's going on, especially with regards to education in northern Nigeria, and we'll be joined by a guest to talk about this.
I think that feeds into our earlier conversation where we talked about security regarding his parents being killed, and that's just a small section of people there that are affected by insecurity once again, kids this time. And then the education bit of it, that's a totally different subject. And I'm looking forward to that conversation when we talk about that later on in the show.
And I'm glad that you've highlighted insecurity, because now we're looking at that. Nigeria's House of Representatives, through its spokesman, Honorable Akin Rotimi, has called on the Inspector General of Police, IG, to ensure the safe return of the 20 medical students of the University of Maiduguri and the University of Jos, who were kidnapped in Benue State while traveling to Enugu last Thursday. The students were traveling for the Federation of Catholic Medical and Dental Students annual convention in Enugu when they were abducted along with a house officer in Benue State along the Otukpa-Enugu road on Thursday. Today marks day 4 since the abduction. The Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia, the National Association of University Students, and other prominent Nigerians have condemned the recent abduction.
Meanwhile, spokesperson for the State Command's SP Catherine Anene said the command, in conjunction with other security agencies, had deployed officers to ensure that the abducted medical students were rescued. One of the students, Kingsley, managed to alert the public by posting a desperate message on his X account. Some of the messages include Kidnap Tweet 1 here, which you can see on your screens. We were kidnapped on our way to Enugu for a convention, Nigeria doctors. They are requesting for 50 million for 20 of us medical students. Please help us, and we haven't eaten for 2 days. The numbers put there, pious, that is who we are gathering the money with. It goes on with another tweet, if I'm not mistaken, that goes, they said they would start killing us tomorrow. A very sad and, well, alarming message there. Now, we have joining us this morning to talk at this incident, Senate President of the National Association of Nigerian Students, Mr. Akinteye Afiz, and Chidi Omeje, who is a security expert. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
That's good. Now, Mr. Omeje, let's come to you first. Now, this is not the first time that a medical fraternity has dealt with cases of kidnappings. Dr. Gani Atpopola, that was our first instance here, a doctor who was kidnapped 7 months ago in Kaduna, is still in captivity. In this case, we have 20 students. So, question is, why are social workers currently the target of these nefarious acts? And do you have any idea, perhaps, maybe why this is now the trend? Mr. Omeje.
Well, I don't. Thank you. I don't think this is about medical student. Medical. It's about an emergency. No profession, no group of Nigerians are spared. This is the situation is has gone to a level where the government ought to declare emergency on the kidnapping industry in Nigeria. So to me, it's not just because the medical students were kidnapped. Other people are targeted. Everybody is a target. People can't travel anymore. People are not safe in any part of this country. So it's horrible, and I'm surprised that the government have allowed this thing to come to this level where it has become completely a full-blown industry. So to me, I don't think any group is targeted. Those kidnappers are just out there laying siege Nigerians. Anybody who set the sight on, they're kidnapped. So it tells you about a broken state. It tells you about a state where people are on their own devices. People are allowed to go on, and then of course whatever fit they see on the road they come back with. So to me, it goes beyond targeting social or medical workers. It is about entirety of Nigerians being targeted of kidnappers. So let's see it in that way. So that if you look at just medical targeting medical, that means you are constricting the problem. The problem is much more, is wider than just medical workers being targeted, and the entirety of Nigerians are targets. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. There was a report by SBM Intelligence of the number, about 4,777 kidnaps between May 2023 and January 2024. So if we look at, and still following up with you, Mr. Omeje, so far, would you say that we're making any form of progress looking at the insecurity, the way that the current administration is combating insecurity in the country?
Look, as long as we have issues like this, as long as Nigerians don't feel safe anywhere, as long as you have this kind of industrial scale kidnapping, as long as you have broken down state assets to the point that it is not possible for you to travel between point A to point B without having to contend with issues like this, then no effort. You can't convince me that you are doing anything. I expected this government to have understood the critical issues about kidnapping, about other forms of criminality that overwhelm the state, and then make it a point of duty that this should be the first thing to handle with. Because security of life and property is actually, the primary essence of governance. And if you don't get it right, I don't know what else we are doing. If we cannot go to farms, we cannot travel to our places, then what else are we living for? So the whole thing is broken down. So as far as I'm concerned, you cannot lay claim of any effort when on daily basis, kidnappings got out the day, armed robbery, banditry, terrorism, what kind of thing is this? So I cannot beat my chest and say something concrete has been done when on daily basis we have this matter being reported. Even just yesterday, we had another kidnapping in Enugu state. So what's happening? Is incredible. Government should declare it a state of emergency. And at least on this, our what do you call them, National Assembly members who are only present in what is okay for themselves. I have not seen them come out to talk, devote their time to talk about these matters. This is terrible. The government is failing us. That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah.
Ajay, you are correct indeed. Thank you. But Mr. Hafiz, let me come to you. First of all, I'm very alarmed about the trend that this might set and how exactly we handle this as a nation and how this would look to potential kidnappers. Maybe they might want to set a trend. We're hoping that that doesn't happen. But let's then look at the timeline put together by the Punch newspaper concerning the spate of kidnappings within Benue State. Now, in May, 2 female students of the Joseph Sirwan University of Agriculture, Makurdi, Benue State, were kidnapped by gunmen. In July, gunmen abducted 3 staff members, including the acting rector of Benue State Polytechnic, Ibukule, Dr. Emmanuel Baki, and demanded 70 million naira ransom. And then 10 people were reportedly kidnapped at the Taraba-Benue border community in Juta, in the Ukum local government area of Benue State in March. Now, aren't these kidnappings enough to declare a state of emergency like Mr. Omeje was asking? Mr. Hafiz, please, if you'd respond.
Definitely, they are enough to declare a state of emergency on kidnapping and security in Benue states. And it is so alarming that we have allowed it to get to this stage that about 20 students were kidnapped before we are now talking about this. State of emergency needs to be declared on the security situation in this country, especially on kidnapping, because it is so sad that some people will just sit down somewhere, go outside, kidnap people, hit them, and start asking for ransom. And people, most times, they pay the ransom before they release their victims. And that is what we are saying. Kidnapping has become a business to some people in this country.
Mr. Omeje, please, we have to mute your mic. Thank you.
And that is what we are saying. So I believe it is necessary, the government necessarily need to, especially in Benue State, and many other states in this country, government needs to be serious. Technology needs to be deployed. Securities need to be deployed. They need to be empowered to fight this kidnapping conflict squarely to a standstill. Because if it continues like this, even at this point, we are not safe. Everybody are not safe in this country. If the government are saying they are trying, we need to see it in their workings. We need to see results. So if people are asking for declared state of emergency or security or kidnapping in this country, it is not out of point. It is what needs to be done. More seriousness, more attention needs to be given to the issue of security and kidnapping in this country.
Now, Mr. Hafiz, regarding these instances that I've just mentioned from earlier, and then noting that this has not been attended to, how best do you think the Nigerian government can attend to these instances so that it doesn't look attractive to other kidnappers who might want to take a certain sector, like we have focused now on the health sector or health workers being kidnapped targets? Or speculating that that's the situation. How can they make it unattractive for kidnappers to go or target these specific sectors? What must they do? How must they handle this specific instance or these specific instances?
The government needs to be serious about fighting the kidnapping issue first. And secondly, those arrested, you will see people arrested, that have been arrested, they will be standing trial for this. There needs to be a capital law for kidnapping. And when people are arrested, you speed up the trial and let people see that, yes, this kidnapper was arrested and he was punished by the capital law of this country. When people are seeing that people are getting punished seriously, severely about being kidnapper in this country, it will become less attractive. But in a situation whereby people know if they are kidnapped, even when they get to court, they will start studying their trial. We have kidnappers that have been arrested for about how many years in this country? Until now, their cases are still in court. So it gives confidence to other people to kidnap. Security are arresting some kidnappers. Yes, security are trying in some aspects, but it is not enough.
All right.
And there are some times when...
I just want to follow up very quickly on the question that my colleague had asked earlier. He had given a timeline. And if you see that, the timeline by the Punch newspaper, May, 2 female students from Joseph Sarwan University in Makurdi, excuse me, and then the next one, we saw that we had gunmen abducting 3 staff members, including acting rector in Benue State Polytechnic in July. One thing we've seen in these two is that they're students. You're the Senate President for the Nigerian Association of National Association of Nigerian Students. How would you say this is affecting the education sector? What message are we passing, and what really is the mood right now among these people?
We are not in good mood. We are not happy about this, because if students continue to be kidnapped, if they continue to kidnap students, it will not be safe. People will not have confidence to even go to school, and that is the problem. Especially in a situation whereby we want more quality of education, more education quality in the country, more students, we want to encourage more people to go to school, especially in that north. Even in Benue State, they are encouraging people to go to school. So when people are getting kidnapped because they are going to school, because they are students, it is not encouraging, and definitely is also a setback to the education sector. So we need the government to take the issue of kidnapping, the issue of security more serious for us, so that people going to school will feel safe when going to school. And that is why this the Safe School initiative by the Nigeria Civil Defense Corps, they should take it more seriously. They should get to the grassroots. It should not just be a news on the newspaper or the television. If there are civil defense that are into the Safe School initiative, you should see them around the schools. They should protect the schools. They should protect the students. That is just what we are saying.
All right. I'd like to bring in Mr. Omeji. In 2022, Nigerian government passed a law, against the payment of ransom. And now we've seen that these kidnappers are asking for ransom to be paid. This is not the first time we've seen people asking for ransom to be paid. But regardless of this law being in place, Nigerians are still paying ransom. Unfortunately, because you cannot blatantly ask a number of them to look the other way when their loved ones are being kidnapped. How are we faring regarding that law? Is that a law that still stands? Is there a strength to that law? And how are we faring regarding payment of ransom? We're seeing crowdfunding happening on social media. Is there a way to get out of this at all?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that particular law is mostly sensitive. Even if you think that you are being, trying to be a bold government. If you say you are going to discourage paying of ransom, if you say you are not going to be interested in ransom payment, and the people are not getting the required security they deserve from the government, and when their loved ones are kidnapped and given deadline by the kidnappers, and in actual sense you see them killing them if they don't pay the ransom, what do you expect the people to do? So it's not just about saying you are not going to pay ransom. You have to make sure that you back up your statement with efforts that would, with the measures rather that will stem the tide of kidnapping. So one thing is to say you are not paying ransom. The other and the most important is to put measures in place to stop kidnapping. So let me tell you something. Most times we fail to do, most times government fail to take into account what we call root cause analysis in dealing with security issues. Now, what do I mean here? There are fundamental issues that actually bring about, that have actually institutionalized kidnapping in Nigeria. Of course, because kidnapping is now a full-blown industry, so it has been institutionalized. So, but the point is, what gave rise to this? Then I tell you something. One key factor: bad governance. Bad governance is just the thing that brought us to this level, because it is the fact that people find crime attractive, owing to the fact that they are actually idle, that brought this thing to this industrial scale. Now, a lot of people who cannot control themselves, who are unable to be held down by morals and everything, have taken to crime because they don't have option. So government must think beyond, this mere grandstanding and then trying to impress the world that no ransom should be paid. If the ransom should not be paid, what have you done to make sure that it doesn't happen in the first place? Now look at this. Look at these medical students. What are you going to tell the families? Are you telling them, you say no ransom will be paid, and I've not seen any peaceful measure by the government to bring them out? Do you think that the family members will sit back and allow? Okay, do you remember Nabila family the other time, and around January or so? That was how the government said, we're not paying ransom. Before they killed Nabila. It happened here and there, and you say no ransom, you think families will sit back? Families will not sit back. Families will not find a way to bring their loved ones in captivity. So the government will not be fair to Nigerians. It's incredible. Look, like I said before, this is an emergency. And if we should drop every other thing we're doing and tackle this measure. Because if you are not secure, we are not doing anything. Security is the first thing. If you get security right, you cannot talk.
Right.
Because as it is now, people can't even travel. People can't travel to the farms. They can't conduct businesses. They can't. What else are we talking about?
And just to quickly add, our security agencies owe us minute by minute or hour by hour updates as they're investigating this situation.
Well, if they think that not giving us minute by minute update is more effective, good and fine. But at the end of the day, let us see results. Because look, don't forget that the kidnappers have given a timeline. They said beginning from so date, they will start killing them, and we can't take them for granted because they've done it before. So whatever you are doing, time is a factor. Time is material, and this is why I think that we need to leverage technology. We need to deploy more boots on ground. We need to devote resources to this. We need to come up with creative, ingenious means to stem the tide. It's embarrassing. Internationally, we are laughing stock. Within the country, we don't. I don't know how we describe ourselves that we cannot live safely. That kidnappers have overwhelmed the entire country, and we have a whole robust security architecture. Every time you see siren, letting here and there. Meanwhile, people can't feel safe at home, on the streets, on the express, in the schools. Come on, it calls for concern. As a matter of fact.
Indeed, it does call for concern. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We're joined this morning to have the conversation by the Senate President, National Association of Nigerian Students, Mr. Akintaye Hafiz, and Chidi Emeje, security expert. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, John.
We do hope that the next time we're talking about this, we'll have some positive updates regarding the students and their release. Some are saying that tweets were being made from the location of the kidnap, and they're wondering why phones were not being tracked and why we haven't gotten an update regarding this. But as we get more information, we'll share with you here on Breakfast Central. We're going to break. When we come back, more stories. Stay with us. Bread prices have not dropped despite the government's approval of a duty-free importation waiver on wheat, maize and other commodities. We've seen that the Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria went on a protest on the 16th of December 2021, and the Association of Master Bakers and Caterers of Nigeria in Lagos State held the protest last Wednesday, calling the federal government's attention to the continuous increase in flour prices.
Now, the association's chairman, Chief Ayola Matthew, lamented that Nigerian millers have failed to implement the waiver, leading to a surge in flour prices, making it difficult for bakeries to operate smoothly. The association is calling for urgent government intervention to enforce the waiver, reduced food prices, and investigate the activities of Nigerian millers and sugar producers. So joining us this morning is President of Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria, PBAN, Mr. Emmanuel Onora. Mr. Emmanuel, you're welcome. Thank you very much.
For having me. Good morning. Yes. Good
so
morning.
I just want to quickly highlight and clarify that PBAN and the Association of AMBC and Association of Master Bakers and Caterers of Nigeria in Lagos State, they're not the same.
No.
Great.
We're not the same, but materially all of us produce bread.
Brilliant. So that means the challenges are applicable to all the organizations.
It's across board. Challenges are across board.
So talk to us about the challenges that the bakers are currently facing. There's been a waiver of importation of wheat and maize, and we had hoped that would be reflective in the prices of baking. Why is that not happening?
Well, one wouldn't say the policy document just came out last week, so you do not expect that overnight these things will just ease out. No, we've cried severally when we were hearing the rumor that there was an executive order that was going to be signed by the president for VAT and import duty suspension on certain goods, essential goods into Nigeria, especially wheat, rice, and all of it, sorghum and all of that. We cried out. We on various mediums to cry out that the devil is in the details. Okay, so that the federal government should come out with a policy document, because without a policy framework, there's nothing the millers can do. All right, if you are going to do it, how are they going to plan their futures? How are they going to raise their LCs if you have not even given them the policy document on which to work? So thankfully, I think, was it last week? Yeah, last week I was on a sister's station last week to cry out, and the next day or so, the policy document came out, and I hope that the millers are going to cash in using that using that policy document to ensure that the prices of flour eases down or remains as it is. But mark you, it is not only flour. All the items that we use in producing all our ingredients are all spiking in prices. Sugar has increased to about 82,000, depending on where you are sourcing it from about 74,000 naira. Ascorbic acid as preservative has increased from about 43,000 to about 80,000 naira. Softener has increased from 800,000 per 20 kg back to about 1.6 million, depending on the type you are buying. Some even as much as 2.8 million for a bag. Yeah, yeast that we used to buy in January this year for about 20-something thousand naira a carton is today about 62,000 naira. All right. Eggs, of course, you know, is going for about 4,008 to 4,005 per crate. Milk, that was 70-something thousand at the beginning of this year, 80-something thousand, is going for about 110,000. These are materials that we use in producing our bread. Salt just increased last week here. Salt that was 11,500 is now 16,000 naira. So you can see that the increase spikes across all our ingredients. And mark you, we have distribution vans. Some of them use diesel and some of them use fuel. Those of them that are using fuel, you know the crisis in fuel in Nigeria. I just came back from Warri yesterday with my family. I bought fuel in Warri for 950 naira per liter. I came into Lagos. Coming here now, there is no fuel anywhere. I drove all the way from Surulere to your studio here now. There is no fuel anywhere. So how do we even distribute our own products? Look at the whole thing. Bread, you know, you do your costing. Your costing determines what you do in bread making. So if you don't get the costing right, what does it mean? It means you are going to dovetail into a loss. Your cost must match your revenue. But in our instance, the revenue is disproportionately to the cost. So what do you mean? What does it mean? It tells you that the price of bread will keep spiking because the other ingredients that enable you to produce bread are all going up.
Two questions. So what are the implications now? If the price of bread, if these prices continue to go up, we're looking at bread costing like what? How much now? Currently, I think a big family size loaf of bread should be about 1,400 naira.
No, it depends on where you're buying. I don't buy for 1,000.
And it depends on the quality of what you are buying.
Yes,
okay. Some go as much as 2,000 naira.
2,000 naira.
Yeah.
So if it's 2,000 naira at the moment, what could it be if these prices continue to rise?
For us in P-Ban, we have the way we categorize our bread. We have our different weight bands. We have the smaller ones that go for as much as 500 naira. Okay, then we have the sliced bread. In P-Ban, some of us do as much as 1,000, depending on your recipe, of course, because we have a different recipe makeup. Okay, some of us do 1,000 for maybe 800 pack size bread. That is the one that is common amongst us. But the high-end ones are doing about 1,800. Some are even doing 2,000. But the jumbo size, that's the very big one. Those are the big one that we call the jumbo sizes. That's about 3.0 to 4 kg of net weight. That one goes for about 2,000, between 2,100 to 2,400, okay, depending on your recipe too. And I'm telling you that these things are going to go up. Now, in the last 2 weeks, or the last 1 month, the price of flour increased threefold, added about 7,000 naira. The last one that happened was about 2 weeks ago, and we had to absorb the cost as bakers because you can't keep spiking the price of bread. Come on. And are we not Nigerians?
So, sir, now you talked about the other ingredients that are also spiking in price as well. Is your body also advocating perhaps maybe for internal policies that could help chase or advocate that these prices come down? You talk about egg, you talk about salt, you talk about all of that. But currently, what the focus seems to be on is on import duties that is removed from certain materials and also VAT. What about policies for these other ingredients that are sourced locally here in Nigeria?
That's why we always advocate for backward integration. It has worked in cement. Why would it not work in flour? Okay, you know the sugar refiners, they don't even, when they say backward integration in sugar, they bring in their sugar, raw sugar from Brazil. They still import majorly from Brazil, bring it here, vitamize it, maybe add vitamin A to it and E or whatever. That's what they do here. So what we are doing, we are advocating for in-country domiciliation of this production here, because once you produce them here, it becomes cheaper for us. All right? Come on, how can you tell me that in Nigeria we are still importing yeast? What are our big men doing with the money they have? Why are people not setting up here? Is it that the climate is so bad that you can't even break even if you set up here? Everything is about import. Any country that is import dependent, these are the kind of problems.
Do we have those facilities or industries to produce them in any case? Or do we have to start from scratch? And how long will that take?
No, you may not have to start from scratch, but you have to look at the enabling environment to energy, cost of doing business, ease of doing business, the bureaucracy, the red tapeism in it. How? We had a company that wanted to come in from France. They were already coming into Lagos to do something here, but because of the policies here, they had to bolt out because everywhere they were going, there were roadblocks. So there's nothing like ease of doing business. So they have to dismantle those roadblocks to ensure that these things are done in country, so that we can begin to get the value for bread production. If not as it is today, I am telling you, we just absorbed a 2,500 naira per bag cost per bag of flour. We just absorbed it not quite long ago, I think about 2 weeks now. For how long can we keep absorbing? For the much you keep absorbing, your business is suffering. The minimum wage there, we are expected to pay the minimum wage. We are expected to run overhead. We are expected to buy these expensive ingredients.
And not to mention the fuel to transport your products to the consumers. Let's also talk about the quality. Should Nigerians be worried about the quality of bread that will be produced, seen as things are ridiculously expensive right now? There have been allegations of people bakers using saccharin in place of sugar, because right now the cost, like you alluded to, the cost of sugar is really very expensive. So should Nigerians be worried about the quality of bread that is being produced or that will be produced as a result? It's not only bread. Every other thing in Nigeria, people should be worried. But all I know is that I can vouch for my association because we have in-class peer review mechanisms. It's part of our objectives as PBAN to produce with wholesome materials. We go from bakery to bakery to look at what our members are doing. And if we catch any of our members doing that, we are the ones that will report the person to the regulatory authorities. We frown at it. We have zero tolerance to use of unwholesome materials. The prevalence of renal problems and cancer and all of it in Nigeria today is because of what people ingest. And we frown at it in PBAN. So what we use in PBAN, I can talk for PBAN, we don't use saccharin because NAFDAC does not allow us to do that. Yes, you could add some sweeteners in line with the codex that NAFDAC has given. For instance, you have the assessment K. Okay, you can do, I think, for 1,000, I think it's 1,000 grams per one bag of flour to your bulk dough or to your dry mix. Okay, what does that tell you? That means we work with what NAFDAC has approved. We don't do saccharin, we frown at it because it is not what the country approves. We don't do bromate too because the country does not, the codex does not approve of it in Nigeria. Yes, they do use it in America and other countries, but Nigeria does not use it like the UK. So we frown at it. We ensure that in PBAN, we produce wholesome bread that is good and fit for consumption by Nigerians, and we don't want to endanger people's health. We can vouch for our members. It's part of our do's, it's part of our don'ts, it's part of our DNA. Okay. I'd like to ask what PBAN is calling for, because if we see what the AMBCN is calling for, they're asking that the government probe into the activities of flour millers and sugar producers. They're asking for the enforcement of the import duty waiver from importation to consumer level. They're asking for a reduction in flour prices to between 30,000 and 40,000 naira per bag. And they're also asking for increased distribution and accessibility of baking commodities. Is this sort of similar to what PBAN is asking for, or is there a different ask? Well, I mean, just digress further on, I think, the point number 3 there. It is not the miller's place to set up the macro and microeconomic indices in the country. It is in the government's place to regulate them, okay? What they do, they are businesses. They are set up to make profits. But in doing that, they shouldn't gouge your price. They shouldn't be a monopoly or a duopoly that will be at the detriment of Nigerians. So what the government should do is that the government, through the FCCPC, should be able to rein in on these people. You understand me? Because they are set up to be profitable too. They pass through the same challenges that we pass through. The challenges of getting energy, the challenges of importation, the challenges of clearing and all of it. You understand me? So I wouldn't want to call them out really, but the truth is they should look at their rate of increases in the prices of this commodity, because, I mean, it is killing us. It is killing us. When you say they should look at it, do you mean the millet producers? The millers, yes. Mm-hmm. They should not be hasty in doing this all the time. You understand me? As much as, yes, their businesses, they have their shareholders to cater for and their dividends and all of that, but they should be human face to this whole thing.
there should be a human face to it.
All right, so if you were to address the government right now, what would you say to the government, on behalf of the Premium Bakers Association of Nigeria?
Well, the government should, first and foremost, a very laudable one. The government has put a moratorium for 150 days or so till December 31st for import duty and VAT waiver. The government should stick to it. 150 days is not enough. I hope that they are going to push it further to about 2 years. We asked for 2-3 years moratorium because post-COVID we've been suffering. The government should rein in on even the people that are bringing in this material into Nigeria, using the instrumentality of the FCCPC to ensure that the prices are such that we as bakers are able to get these things at a price that will ensure that Nigerians get bread at a very affordable cost. Because once bread is expensive, I am telling you, it has the potential to exacerbate the current insecurity in Nigeria. Every family in Nigeria eats bread. Bread is a staple. Bread is not meant to be expensive. Bread is supposed to be something that every Nigerian can grab and just have and go. If children are on holiday today, what is their snack? The best snack for children is what? Bread and spread. Once the bread and spread is on the table, mommy and daddy can go to work, rest assured that the children will eat. So bread should not be priced out of the reach of the average Nigerian, because if you do that, it's a recipe for exacerbation of the current insecurity, because a hungry man is an hungry man.
I just want to quickly, before we wrap up the conversation, talk about something you just said, extending it from 150 days to about 2 years.
Yeah,
the president of the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina had said that he's not particularly in support of this because he finds that this would affect local production.
Right.
And you have also talked about the fact that we need to also look at encouraging local production. So how do we then find that balance? If there's a 150 days extended to 2-3 years, does that not also affect local production? And do we have the capacity right now to be able to produce the demand that the bakers in Nigeria have?
That's why I advocated for backward integration. You have to do it gradual. Just like the way transition, it's like winning a child. Okay, winning a child, you understand? You win the industry too. Nigeria has about 15 to 20 states in the north that can grow wheat effectively, okay? Dry and rainy season wheat. It's an all year round thing for cultivation. So the government should look at that, and in doing that, not only wheat, okay? Because if you do wheat and you are leaving the sugar and every other material, it will not bode well for our own industry and for food security in Nigeria. Yes, like Dr. Akinwumi said, of course, he will have to say it because he's not a businessman. We that wear the shoe knows where it pinches. As much as possible, we are not going to open our country for dumping, but in doing that, we should do it gradually, okay? Nigeria, of course, there's that 15% that the government has been collecting for wheat development levy. Is domiciled in the CBN. They should look at it through the Ministry of Agriculture or whatever, or the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. They should look at that fund and use it effectively for what it is meant to be, to grow wheat in country. Nigeria has the capacity to grow wheat. Nigeria wheat requirement today is about 5.1 million metric tons, but we are being very abysmal in the growth of wheat. We do just about 250,000-300,000 metric tons. So there's a gap of about 4.7 to 5 million that we get from outside the country.
So for now, that means the waiver would need to be extended, and then, like you said, a gradual backward integration.
That's the best option. Nobody is saying that we should be dumping ground. Ultimately, the plan should be that we should be self-sufficient in the growth of wheat, and not only wheat, and every other material that we use in making bread and other materials that are used for production in Nigeria.
Emmanuel Honora, the President, Bread Makers Association of Nigeria, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria.
Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria.
Thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate you.
I hope that the price of all of this work together so that the price of bread can come down, because some of us, I don't know how I'm going to cope with
you need
bread.
your fix every morning.
I certainly need my bread.
She's an addict.
When the Holy Book said, "Man shall not live by bread alone," I
you
don't
took
think
it
it was
personal.
talking to me. Welcome back to the Breakfast Central. Now we're going to be reviewing the papers, and just to mention that the way we usually do it here, of course, is to open the phone lines and afford you the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. And then we share, we'd just like to also ask that before you call in, you turn down the volume of your TV screens. We're going to go through the papers and then we'll share with you who our analyst is. But this morning we're looking at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. On the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, Why grains importation won't happen soon by stakeholders. 1 month gone already as federal government fine-tunes policy. Customs awaits list of importers. Stakeholders divided on policy. 100 tons capacity excludes our member, says Rimford. Medical students abduction. Governor Alia. NMA, Health Ministry task security agents on rescue. Minimum wage, we won't accept unauthorized recruitment into agencies, according to federal government. Azinge emerges 14th Asaba of Asaba designate. Oh. Bad economy, drop in passenger traffic unsettles domestic airlines, a drop in passenger traffic. And then we also have at the top of the paper, SERAP to Akpabio and Abbas disclose monthly running cost of National Assembly. Scarcity, NNPC blames distribution challenges. Independent marketers sell at 950 naira per litre. OPIC leads Amosun Utomi bicker over contract violation. That's a big story. But that's all on the Vanguard. Let's head to the next paper.
The Daily Independence got these headlines. First, front and center, low purchasing power locks out retail investors from rights issue. And I'm not eyeing Tinubu's job, says Ganduje. Reps ask AMCON to go after debtors irrespective of social status. And I suffer same fate as the Chinese firm under Amosun, says Pat Utomi. On page 6 here, Benue tops child trafficking list in Nigeria for 3 consecutive years, and Tinubu travels to France today. At the very top for the Daily Independence, Edo gubernatorial polls, PDP raises the alarm over arrest of party chieftains by police. And Rivers crisis, once again in the news, police unveil prime suspect in hotel attack, trail APP secretariat arsonist. And at the very bottom, alleged 21 million naira jumbo pay account for running costs, SERAP tells National Assembly. And at the very bottom, NNPCL denies owing international oil traders $6.8 billion. That on page 6. That's it for the Daily Independence.
All right, the Punch newspaper says, food crisis may worsen as flood hits 10 states. Farmers groan as floods ravage farmlands in Sokoto, Kano, KB, 7 others. SEMA 6 government help as droughts dry up crops in 4 states. 31 states risk flooding. Police detect hunt 20 varsity students abductors. Vietnam-bound businessman excretes 88 cocaine wraps. Wow. Civil servant screening on IPPIS portal ends on Friday, according to the federal government. NNPC battles deepening fuel scarcity, black market booms. Presidential jets, Abiodun consults federal government as Utomi tackles Amosun. Federal government eyes $2 billion from local dollar bond sale. And final story here, fake degrees. Federal government orders varsities to submit matriculation lists. That's all on the Punch. Let's now head to the Daily Times.
Daily Times this morning for a Monday, Utomi Amosu trade tackles over contract violation. I was a victim of Amosu's violation of contract terms, says Utomi. Utomi suffering from an entitlement mentality, says Amosun. Interesting. SERAP to Akpabio Abbas disclosed National Assembly running costs or face legal action. And under that, Tinubu departs Abuja for France today. Another iteration on this paper. At the very top for the Daily Times, fuel queues resurface in Lagos amid stock shortage. Well, really, is it shortage or just being hoarded? We'll find out. And FIRS targets 19.4 trillion naira, seeks legal framework for cryptocurrency taxation. Drought, Kogi government, AFAN seek divine intervention. And that's it for the Daily Times for a Monday. And I think that's all the papers we'll be talking from this morning.
All right, let's begin with the Vanguard newspaper. On the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, the big story there is why grains importation won't happen soon by stakeholders. We'll come back to talk about this, but we're joined by public affairs analyst Jide Johnson. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me. And good morning.
Good morning. And even as we discuss the story, just to mention once again to our viewers that you can call in. The numbers to call will be on your TV screen. But please remember to turn down the volume of your TV set or whatever device you're watching us from before calling in. Let's get into the conversation this morning about grains and importation not happening soon by stakeholders. They are awaiting the list of importers. Recently, we talked about the import waiver that was going to happen, and there were a list of products in that category. We have a list of food items covered by the executive order: husked brown rice, beans, millet, grain, sorghum, maize, and wheat. And a few minutes ago, we had the president of the Premium Bakers Association of Nigeria talking about how he thinks that waiver should be extended from 150 days to 2 to 3 years. President of the Africa Development Bank is against it. He says that he's not going to encourage local production because if we're looking at import and we're just focusing on import, what about the local farmers. And even we had a farmer join us last week to talk about him having gotten a loan to do local production, and now they're not quite sure what will be their future. So what do you make of all of this?
I think there should be a short-term approach to it, a short-term approach with a long-term plan in view. Presently, Nigerians are hungry. There's no doubt about that, and you can't get farm produce in 1 month, in 2 months, in 3 months. It's whatever you have planted. In one of the stories we had, about 10 states in the north already been flooded. That's an indication that there will be shortage of food supply next year, because already what they've planted has already been washed away by. But I think what is required is for us to have a comprehensive plan. Okay, for the next 3 years we are going to do this, but after that 3 years, in 4 years' time, we are going to have this by investing in agriculture, comprehensive investment in agriculture, giving farmers money, giving them loans so that they can start, and in 4 years' time, they begin to produce and begin to provide that yield. The first major global food crisis we have, first one documented, was the one that happened when Joseph was made the prime minister in Egypt, according to documented evidence. And then it was a 7 years comprehensive plan. It was a 7 years comprehensive plan. So for food security, we can't adopt a knee-jerk approach. Even with the executive order, for 1 month, we are still belaboring the issue. They are still waiting for the list. The list has not already been supplied. If it's oil prices that was removed, I'm telling you, within the twinkle of an eye, you see the effect. But when it comes to something that affects the mass, you see that it takes a lot of food dragging, red tapeism, a lot of bureaucracy comes into it. And as a result of that, you don't tend to enjoy the full benefit of that policy intervention, which is meant to solve an immediate problem.
We have Benjamin calling from Ghana. Good morning, Benjamin. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling on the situation of Nigeria now. And when I was listening to your first guest, the bread man, it's so appalling, the situation of Nigeria now. And from the look of things, Nigeria is heading, it's like a plane, on a nosedive. We can't even produce what we eat. And the government is gradually introducing GMO to us, telling us we can eat and die. Nigeria has the potential to be one of the greatest nations on the surface of the earth. But we are begging. Nigeria is the only country on the surface of the earth that God has blessed with natural resources, but we can't produce anything. We rather import 90% of the things we eat. Nigeria is an oil company, a country that has oil, but we don't have one refinery. And you think Nigeria will survive? My brother, Nigeria won't survive. Look at doctors are being kidnapped. Who is going to watch the watchman? Police can't investigate custom. Custom can't investigate police. Nobody is holding anybody accountable. And our president is traveling as if nothing is happening. There's something in Nigeria that says a man can't, you can't be chasing a rat while your house is burning. Can you tell me what all this travel they are traveling? What is the benefit to Nigerians? Why can't they cut down all this traveling and face the real fact about Nigeria and get food, common food to make Nigerians survive? And they are getting, look at our budget, salary everywhere. Nigerians, it's time for Nigerians to take their budget by the phone. And demand accountability from the leader.
Benjamin, we have to go now. Thank you very much for calling. And he's made very, very valid points, one of which is, cutting down the cost of governance in a sense. And I want to bring us back to the story of SERAP to Akpabio and Abase saying disclose monthly running cost of National Assembly. Why is it such a big deal that we can't see exactly what's the
focus is usually on National Assembly. If you look at that of the executive, it's mind-blowing.
Security votes.
If you look at that of NNPC, which is just an agency under the presidency, which is part of the executive, is mind-blowing. One of the things we have called for is complete transparency in the way government is being run, not only in the National Assembly alone, but every agency, ministry, departments, and agencies of government. Nigeria needs to know what is being expended in terms of running costs. Like the one concerning travel, some people collect extra code. You remember last year when the president said, okay, I'm going to reduce the allowances of foreign travels by 50%. We are going to, has that taken its effect? The president was in Malabo last week. Is now in France. One of the basic principles of growth is that growth does not come from abroad, it comes from within. The first law of success is first within, then without. I think for us to grow, foreigners will not help us to grow this economy. We are the ones that will grow the economy ourselves. We are the ones that will grow this country. But when you have a situation where too much attention is paid to foreign travels, then you don't have time to pay attention to what is happening at home. And then what is the cost implication of all of this travel? When we are being asked to manage our resources to live within our means because it's an austere situation, whereas those that are in public offices are living large. So it costs for much to be desired from those that are in public office.
Now, I wanted to touch on something. There's a specific trend that seems to go through all of these stories. You're talking about travel now. Our domestic travel here in Nigeria is a problem. If people want to go through using the air route, but then again, they can't afford it. Right. Why are they trying air route? Because of the insecurity on the roads. We also talked about the production of farm goods. Professor Zulum only just told that he's supporting farmers and talking to the Nigerian government to provide security for farmers. We've never had this in the past, where you have to have military guard farmers just so that they can make produce. But this is what we see. Now, it makes us ask the question regarding the security architecture in Nigeria, whether it absolutely needs to change. Is it just roadblocks that would tell that we have security in Nigeria, whether we put roadblocks here and there, or going into the communities to actually have a strong security architecture? What do we do regarding security? Also note that this is beginning to affect specific sectors like the health sector, where we have people who have been kidnapped from the health sector. Like I said, they're being targeted. Students, 20 students going to Benue, medical students, and then Dr. Ganiat from 6 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. What do we do regarding security, since it seems to permeate every single thing, every single sector in Nigeria?
The issue of security is such an ironic situation for us in this country. One, the bulk of our vote goes to security vote, which invariably there's no transparency concerning that. When there is a threat of protest, you see the open display of security force. You see the way the security agencies were deployed during, quote unquote, the August protest rally. And then you wonder, if we have so much security, why can't it be deployed on a normal basis, on day-to-day basis, so that an average Nigerian is protected? The first basic responsibility of government is to protect the life and property of its citizen. Then secondly, the territorial integrity of its country. Are we doing that? Can we conveniently say that that is? And we have said it because we don't hold people in security agencies accountable. For example, there's an infraction in a local government. There's a DSS head of that local government. There is a DP of that local government. There is the NCDC head of that local government. There is a police commissioner. There is a military formation. Do we hold them accountable? And you also put a question, what about the State Security Council? What their votes for it? How do they justify the votes they are spending on the State Security Council? How often do they convene such meeting? What are the deliberations that happen in that meeting? It's like we're on a free fall. Nobody seems to care about the security issue. Let me quickly conclude with this. We talk about food. Every time we talk about food, it's about food security. There's usually security that is attached with food security. Because if you can't feed your people, you expose your country to danger.
I'm told that we have Ariel from Jos calling us in now. Ariel, good morning. Thank you for joining.
Hello?
Ariel, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, panel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
We can hear you.
Yes, you see, to be sincere, this country, we have a leader, but at the same time, we have a leader that has no direction to an extent. When you talk about this food crisis, it's partly caused by man and partly caused by natural disasters. When I talk about man, you see, insecurity is one. And then the corruption that has eaten up the agri sector causes all this food shortage. How can you give a 3 months or 4 months plan for food to be imported into the country? How long does it take on a high sea for it to get here? And when do you adjust? When do people adjust to that? I think the government should be sincere. This thing has to stay a little bit longer. We need food for more than a year. The panel you brought said in the next, yes, the rain has destroyed most of the foods in the north. Where are we going to get food? You said by December, You gave a deadline of December for food to be imported. For Christ's sake, how can food be able to stand us till December? This is a country that is large in population. It needs food, and what the country is producing for food cannot meet up the demand of the population. Secondly, the National Assembly is not helping us. They are the worst set of political staff that we have in the country. Something needs to be done about those people because they are taking what is not theirs. Taxpayers' money, you are taking 21 million naira every month. Where are you going with such money? You need to look at your people. You need to consider them. Please, this is my take. The government needs to sit up, and people should, and we need to rise up to the truth in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ariel. He just mentioned something I was going to go on to now. The Daily Independence has this headline regarding the alleged 21 million naira jumbo pay, and asking account for running costs, SERAP tells National Assembly.
Indeed, it does. But, I mean, it's important. I mean, you have said that it's not just National Assembly, that it should be executive and all around.
A comprehensive overhaul.
Even though they will say maybe we should start from somewhere. But let's quickly touch on the botched investment, the OPIC trade deal, and the bickering between Pat Utomi and the former governor of Ogun State. We're seeing here on the front page of the Daily Times newspaper. We had taken that earlier. Utomi Amosun trade tackles over contract violation. I was a victim of Amosun's violation of contract terms, says Utomi. Utomi is suffering from a mentality, an entitlement mentality, says Senator Amosun. And we see that all of this comes amidst the drama between the federal government, the Ogun State government, and the Chinese firm. So what are your thoughts on the drama going on?
First and foremost, I thought the FCC should have invited all the actors and players in that botched contract, because it was a disgrace to our nation that attempt were made to seize our presidential jet, which is the symbolism of our nationhood. The negative effect is not just about now, it's forever. It's documented that the presidential jet, have you ever heard of the presidential jet of any nation being seized? Because that's one. Who was the governor then? We know the governor. Who was the State House of Assembly, Speaker of the State House of Assembly? Who was the Attorney General? Who was the Accountant General? Who are those that were involved? These are the set of people that should have been invited for questioning. Who are those that guaranteed this loan at the federal government level? You cannot be bringing the name of the nation into disrepute, and you just think that you just grant the press conference and you gloss over it by attacking another individual, saying that another individual is trying to. One of the things we have seen is that a lot of states, this is just the one we know. We don't know what other states have done in terms of contractual agreement that has not been fulfilled. One of the things we must put in place moving forward is for complete transparency when it comes to state government getting loan on behalf of their citizen before the federal government gives them the guarantee that they can get that loan, because state government cannot get any loan from foreign investors except they are guaranteed by the federal government. So all those that were involved, I thought the FCC should have invited them and they should have been questioned, and then for them to explain their role in this international degrees. It's an international embarrassment. And then for him to still even have the infantry of granting prayer and replying Pat Utomi. We have seen over time that government is not seen as a continuity in Nigeria. The moment a new government comes in, every other agreement that has been entered into by previous is as a result of personalization. When people come into public office, they think that is their personal office. But you are elected into public office. Your responsibility is to continue from where your predecessor stopped from, so that you continue from that. But in Nigeria, no, I want to start my own program, and that's why you see that they name every public project after themselves. And I'm looking forward to a situation where even SERAP will be addressing that, stopping elected public officials from naming projects as if they use their own personal fund to fund that project, and they call it pet project. And that's one of the things that has led us to where we are now, because Amosun was not interested in going after the project of his predecessor, so he has to start his own project. Every contract that was entered allegedly was severed, and you put Ogun State into debt, you put Nigeria into disrepute.
And it's now looking like some form of a personal war and a personal battle between these things. Personalities are being thrown under the bus. You've said that you expected the EFCC will call all the involved parties.
Exactly.
You had expected they would have done it. Do you still believe that any such thing will be done?
That's why this program is existing. We are calling on them to do their due diligence. It's their responsibility. It's an economic and financial crime. Yes or no?
These
are the things that EFCC should be doing. These are the things that you should be doing. It's an economic and financial crime, and so this particular issue should be investigated. I would have expected the EFCC chairman to have granted a press conference, just like he did for Yaya Bello, and he said that it's on him if Yaya Bello is not brought to book, and we are still waiting for that.
Find him. Yeah, exactly. I want to move on to one headline here inside of the Daily Times still, and it touches everybody. The return of fuel queues. Fuel queues resurface in Lagos amidst stock shortage. I don't know if it's shortage. I keep asking whether it's a shortage or whether they're just hoarding. Now, in March, I remember the managing director of Financial Derivatives Company Limited, Bismarck Rwanda, telling that diesel prices are going to fall. We're waiting for Dangote as the savior. And that's also going to affect fuel prices going to fall. However, since then, we've seen the back and forth between the Nigerian government and the Dangote refinery. Let's put that aside for the meantime. And let's look at the current situation now, where I bought fuel at 815 Naira per liter 2 days ago, and I hear people are buying at 900 Naira now. It seems like it would seem that there's a frustration happening inside of the sector, and people are beginning to ask questions or argue that there are certain bodies, a very small number of people, who are trying to take advantage of what's happening right now, or at least sabotage whatever gains we might make with the Dangote refinery. What is your take on the current situation regarding the fuel queues resurfacing? Is it being hoarded? Is it a shortage? What are we looking at here?
Are you even sure of the quality of the fuel you are buying?
The quality of the fuel
you are buying. And let me personalize this. As I was coming for this show this morning, my car got stuck on the road. There's fuel inside the car, and just got a new battery. And I'm sure it's the quality of the fuel inside the car. So are we even sure of the quality of the fuel which we buy? And the issue of cabal, in one of the things, personal opinion, that I thought that the president would have done was to have a complete overhaul of that sector by doing away with the past and starting afresh. We had these challenges with the present MD of GMD of NNPC, still the one that was there in previous administration, still the one that is there. Now we are paying more. Fuel subsidy has been removed. Even when we are paying less than this, the fuel scarcity was not as recurrent as we have it now. You bought it 750, some bought it 850, somebody 900, somebody 900 Naira. I thought at the end of this show I'll go and look for fuel because I hope by that today we have that fuel. And nobody's explaining anything. You know, it's like
I think that's what annoys me the most.
It's like we are just left to our own as if things fall apart and descend. Nobody is explaining, not even the Ministry of Petroleum, which is headed by the president, supported by Minister of State for Petroleum, not even the NNPC. It's like, you know what, we are just left at the mercies of the operators in that particular sector, and we are left to be exploited by those that are operating within that particular system, and which some might call it conspiracy theory. Until Dangote came out and spoke about that particular issue, a lot of people used to think that it's conspiracy theory. Now it's driving home the point that, well, there are some elements within that sector that don't want us to succeed in that particular sector. They want us to continue with the present arrangement in which Nigeria will be losing money. We don't want to refine the product locally, because if you refine the product locally, the money they are repatriating through first subsidy will not be able to repatriate that money. You know, it gives them an opportunity to repatriate fund.
I mean, it's really, I mean, I think the part that you've highlighted about how we've just accepted it as a normal part of life, that's what really breaks my heart. And I was saying this, that it feels like once we have 1 week of no trouble, I'm already expecting that the next 2 weeks something is going to happen. There's going to be fuel scarcity. I don't know if we've had any year where we've had this much fuel scarcity as we've had in 2024. I don't recall. You know, I can't say as a matter of fact, but it just feels like every week there's been fuel scarcity. Let's hear from Elder David. Good morning. Thanks for calling. Elder David, please go ahead.
I think
we've lost him. Yeah. So we're seeing here that on the front page of the Daily Times, and this is a story that we've seen in other ones, drought, Kogi government and farmers seek divine intervention. I'm going to read what it says. It said the Kogi state government and the All Farmers Association of Nigeria on Sunday called for prayers for rainfall following the devastating effect of drought. This is very sad. I mean, I don't know how to feel about this, because they knew. I don't think that we're taken by surprise by the weather predictions. We have weather forecasts for a reason, but why aren't we pre-planning? Why aren't we getting to the point where we can figure out alternative measures? I mean, cloud seeding in the UAE. I don't know if we would ever get to that point where people can start to talk about generating artificial rainfall, and we can start to look at alternative measures to boost our agricultural sector. I know that sounds like a very far cry, but let's hear from our next call. We have a caller calling in, and then we'll come back to talk about this. Hello, Fred. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, please go ahead.
Yes, I want to thank the panelists for their input so far, and especially the gentleman there who's the analyst. I think you're doing a great job. And looking at the situation right now concerning this fuel scarcity, the problem with NNPC, sincerely, I'm one of those that really don't trust what's going on with the government. And I don't think America is going to, whatever his name is going to be taken out of the picture. I think he's going to remain there for whatever reasons, just like Mahmoud is going to remain there, just like the DSS official too. The DSS director too is going to remain there. Until the right thing is done going forward, we will still continue to suffer, and Nigerians will continue to suffer, and there will still be no trust in the government. That's just my take. Thank you.
Very interesting standpoint there. But let's go back to the conversation earlier. I think that I'm asking for too much when I'm talking about us looking for alternative measures. Whilst Kogi State is seeking divine intervention, the Punch also reports that food crisis may worsen as flood hits 10 states. Farmers groan as floods ravage farmlands in Sokoto, Kano, KB, 7 others. SEMA seeks government help as drought dries up crops in 4 states, and 31 states risk flooding. We have weather prediction for a reason. I don't think that we're taken by surprise when a number of these things happen. We foresee them. But do we have adequate measures, or would you say that we put in adequate measures to ensure that we're adequately prepared for, let's say, the drought or the flood?
This is the lack of capacity. You said it earlier on. I'm talking about United Arab Emirates. In the 60s, in the 70s, we had food sufficiency in Nigeria. Agriculture was the mainstay of Nigerian economy. God blessed us with arable land, blessed us with different types of weather. Let's take a cue from Kogi State. Kogi State is bounded by 2 rivers. Don't forget, it's a confluence state. River Niger and River Benue. You will have thought that the state government will have invested in irrigation system to have cover up for the debt of rainfall. But you see, the basic thing most government have done from 1999 to date is what I call the ABC of government. You know what is it? Construction of roads, infrastructure. Any idiot can do that, quote unquote. All you just need is the design and the money, and you pay the contractor to do the project. But the real nitty-gritty, the XYZ of public governance, we have not gotten it from those we have given responsibility to manage their affairs. How do we come about ensuring food security? How do we combat natural disaster in order for it not to affect our food supply? How do we grow our economy through industrialization? How do we address the power sector? You know, when we talk about all of these, and then what they will come when they do their 100 days in the office, 4 years in the office, you have built 100 roads, you have built 300 housing projects.
Mr. Johnson, it's funny that you should ask these questions, because first of all, I majored in agriculture as a botanist, and I for a very long time we've always noted that most of the produce that comes from the north, we actually have half of them actually go to waste because we cannot process them. The north is very sunny, very arid. You can actually process tomatoes if you dry it up, and then you can make puree from out of them. We don't do that. Our road systems are terrible. Well, you know what's going on, especially with the hike in fuel or diesel prices now. Makes transportation very hard. However, there is one aspect that we don't look at as a government or as a people, and that is storage. You talked about the 7-year drought in the Bible. What saved them? Storage. So what about policies for storage, or infrastructure for storage rather, when it comes to agriculture? Why don't we have that? In the past, we used to have the groundnut pyramids, and they would stay there for months. I worked at a silo growing up as a student, and I know how long you can actually store wheat for years. But we don't seem to be focusing on that at all.
Because that will not give...
I'll let you answer. I think we have Kolade from Lagos joining us via phone call now. Kolade, please go ahead. Do remember the question, Johnson. Kolade, please, let's have you.
Hello?
Yes, Kolade, go ahead.
What did you say? All right.
Colade, there's a bit of a challenge with your
yes,
audio.
Exactly.
You know, and please call back and turn down the volume of your TV set when you do.
Storage, why?
It's very simple. The example I gave, it was about comprehensive storage system. How do you protect food for 7 years? In that case, in that particular, it was for 14 years. Said we build silos, we build carriageways. You remember in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 40s, and the 50s, we had a railway system. It was an integrated railway system that works very, very well, that we used to move food produce from the north, from the east to the south, even down to Apapa, and then for some of it to be shipped abroad, which we hand foreign exchange earning. Don't forget the three regions until the Midwest was created later were sustained by agriculture, not only for local production, but the one for export. So for example, what investment as states since 1999 made concerning agriculture? Let's talk about Lagos State, let's talk about Ogun State, let's talk about Ondo State, let's talk about Ekiti State, let's talk about Southwest because I'm from the Southwest. What investment? I don't seem to see anyone. Okay, let's talk about one that was done previously. In the last administration, you have the Lagos Kebbi rice, which is called the Lake rice. What has happened to that? It was a partnership between Lagos and Kebbi State, which gave birth to a rice mill in Imota, which one of the best. What has happened to that? You see, one of it is we don't have continuity of policies too. We lack the capacity, people that have the technical know-how. You see, when we talk about fraud, there was one that happened under Jonathan administration when the present African Development Bank was the minister of. There was an interview which he granted on how they were able to control the flood and release the flood back to the farmland. We need the right people in the right place to get the right thing done.
I mean, there's more to look at with regards to that conversation, but we have Lenny joining us from Abuja. Good morning, Lenny. Please go ahead.
I want to talk about this security issue, like the one they just kidnapped these 20 medical students. I believe that our security these agencies can do something about it. Like they can do something about it. Now, ask me how. If I am in my village and I make a video or I make a phone call and I insult a DSS director or whatever, IG of police, I will be picked up in 24 hours, in less than 24 hours. Now, these kidnappers make calls. They make calls to these people, to their loved ones, to their agency, or this. These people will not be picked up. Remember during this last protest, a guy made a TikTok video in Kaduna. He was picked up in less than 24 hours. So we know, they know what they are doing. Understand? They know very much what they are doing. Like I say again, if I am in my sick village making a call now, I insult any, even the army general, any of the army general, I'll be picked up in 24 hours. That is the truth. So these people have been kidnapped for days now. Nothing. They are making calls. You cannot be tracked. They can't be tracked. Who are we lying to? We know these things. Who are we lying to? So that's just my contribution. Thank you.
What he said is not something that we've heard. There are people who would say that if you insult the government, if you insult the president now, or say something really damning, they will find you. So why is it that it's very complicated for them to find criminals? In this case, there was a student who tweeted from the location of his kidnap. Yet, this is day 4 and we've heard nothing.
There's no accountability. That's just it. People are not held accountable. Like the fuel issue, we don't have fuel security, we don't have food security, we don't even have personal safety and personal security. Because look, for example, who is the commissioner of police has he granted a press conference?
Well, I mean, I'm even wondering about the whole hour-by-hour updates. Because what we see in other countries, when something of this magnitude has happened, they're giving us updates. Updates not just to calm Nigerians, but also the family members of those who have been kidnapped. I shudder to think about their family members and what they're going through in this time. So, but we don't see anything like that.
People have resorted to self-help because you have left on your own. You fend for yourself for your water, you fend for yourself for your fuel, you fend for yourself for your energy, you fend for yourself for your own personal personal security, because these are the things that you expect government to provide for you. And the bottom line is that we don't hold. Have you ever seen any security chief at any level, whether at local, state, or federal, being fired as a result of security infraction?
Still speaking about security infraction, I had asked our guest this earlier, and I'm going to ask you about the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013 Amendment Bill, which was passed into 2022, which was passed into the law on the 27th of April by the Senate. It says, and I quote, Section 14 reads, anyone who transfers funds, makes payments, or colludes with an abductor, kidnapper, or terrorist to receive any ransom for the release of any person who has been wrongfully confined, imprisoned, or kidnapped is guilty of a felony and is liable on conviction to a term of imprisonment of not less than 15 years. So we've criminalized paying terrorists. But in today's world, in Nigeria, people are still raising funds because, unfortunately, their loved ones are being kidnapped, and they would rightfully tell you that they cannot just sit back, fold their hands, and leave, situation to the law enforcement. In fact, there have been people who have said that the law enforcement agencies would tell them to go and raise the money that the abductors are asking for. So how do we justify this? And, how do we justify this vis-a-vis our current reality?
This is a section that is far away from reality. You are meant to make law for the good of the society based on what is prevailing in the society. And because most of these laws are shrouded in secrecy, they pass this law without public scrutiny, without the involvement of the citizenry, and that's why you see that the letter of the law does not conform with the spirit of what is happening in the society. Because this, for example, you have your loved one being kidnapped and you are left on your own and you are required to pay ransom. You rather risk paying the ransom than waiting for, than complying with these particular provisions. And like people have pointed out, why is it that there are technology for you to track phone call, there are technology for you to track funds. There are no marked money again, that once the security agencies will work with the family and then you pay the ransom with marked money, and which will enable you to trace this particular fund to those that are involved. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that sometimes, quote unquote, even some of the security agencies are probably culpable in some of these challenges that we have in hand. Taking a cue from what one of the famous Nigerian leader that is still paying us even after his death, General Abacha, said that if insecurity lasts more than 24 hours, then there is culpability on the part of those that are in charge of managing the security. Security, you might tend to believe what he said, because the reality on ground is that we keep hearing stories of kidnapping day in, day out. Have you ever seen a successful prosecution of one?
Well, in some cases, some of them will come back. Some of them will have even functioned as terrorists to come and repent, and then the government forgive them and integrate them back into society. Jide Johnson, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be with you on this Monday morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll go on the break, and when we come back, our next conversation comes up. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The recent End Bad Governance protests in Nigeria may be sparking a long overdue awakening in the northern region, where entrenched issues of poverty, illiteracy, and insecurity have long plagued the region. A recent National Bureau of Statistics report reveals that northern states are among the poorest in Nigeria. This is according to the Multidimensional Poverty Index, the MPI. The 10-day hardship protest saw a surge in northern states, exposing the deep-seated frustration and discontent among citizens in the region who are struggling with the current economic challenges.
The chairman of the All Progressives Congress APC Northern Governors Forum, Abdullahi Sule, has said that the North is sitting on a time bomb, urging the governors to take responsibility and act now. Paradoxically, the northern region, which has produced the most presidents and heads of state, lags significantly behind in development indicators. This morning, we're joined by Abdullahi Awal, public affairs analyst and legal practitioner. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right. When the president, the chairman of the APC Northern Governors Forum, said that the North is sitting on a ticking time bomb, can you give us a picture of what he might have meant by that?
Oh yes, if you say so, if he says so, he is absolutely correct, because we have high level of illiteracy, out of school children that are roaming the street of northern Nigeria from every angle of the north, not only in the north, you will find them in the southwest, in the southeast, and the south-south. Our children are there roaming the street, like I said, and then we are having the highest number of out-of-school children, and that is a very, very, very dangerous trend as far as the northern Nigeria is concerned, and that is caused by hunger, poverty, and the most important of them, insecurity, which is the mother of them all. Like you know, the entire northern Nigeria has been involved with security challenges from the northeast, where we have a very serious challenge of Boko Haram insurgency that has been on in the last 15 years. Then down to the northwest and the north central, that we are having let me say boomeranging effect of kidnappers for ransom, and then if you like bandits, as well as the issue of cattle rustling, farmer-herder clashes, and the rest of them. This truly, like I said, contributed to our northern people not being able to go to farms to produce even the food that they will be able to eat and feed their own family, not to talk of the economic challenges that the North is being engulfed with, because once there's no farming, which our people are known with farming, and when I say farming including rearing of animals, farming of crops for feeding and the likes of it, and when you do that, you take those things to the market for buying and selling. This is what we are mostly known with. And then these things are no longer practicable, so to say, because of the security challenges that we are having. And that made parents not being able to feed their families. And then we have like you know, it's a traditional thing, a traditional religious combination of traditional religion that we have to send our children to go and learn the Quran, where you
now,
have the influence of the Al-Mahdi.
Mr. Awal, noting that you're citing insecurity as one of the major causes, let's also take a look at other things here. 87% of poor Nigerians live in the north, according to a European Training Foundation. Now, there's a limited access of education, let's not forget that, and also basic infrastructure such as electricity, clean drinking water, and sanitation, and job prospects are low. Now, with all of these in mind, it seems that the last protest actually exposed the level of frustration that the North actually carries. However, noting that we have so many heads of states and also military heads of states and presidents come from the North, what is responsible for the massive neglect that the North has received in the past decades, spanning over almost 6 decades now? What's responsible for that neglect?
I think what is responsible is one major thing. You know, the Northerners, the culture of the North teaches one to be fair and kind to your neighbor, no matter the situation. Our leaders, yes, we have, North had the opportunity of producing military head of state and civilian presidents. But like you know, in the North, once there's a leader, what he tried to concentrate is to impress the other part of Nigeria, not neglecting the northern part of the country. If you look at all the leaders that we had in the past, once they become leaders from the northern presidents, what they concentrate on is to see to the development of the southern part or the other part of Nigeria, not concentrating on the north. Why? Because they feel that since they have the opportunity of becoming the leaders, if they concentrate on the north, they will say they are assuming that it will be said that it's because they are northerners, that is where they are working towards developing the north. So in that aspect, they tend to neglect northern Nigeria and concentrate in the development of the other part of Nigeria. And this is a tradition of northerners trying to be kind to your neighbor. Let me use this word. When I say neighbor, as Nigerians, you know, you have the southwest, southeast, south, northwest, northeast, and the north central. Most of these leaders, like you rightly put, let me say 80% of the leaders that Nigeria has produced come from the north. Right. And the concentration is trying to develop the other part of Nigeria instead of concentrating on developing the north. And then, like you said, the last protest has exposed a lot of things.
But you've talked about the last protest. I mean, in reaction to the last protest you've just talked about, Governor Sule, was credited to say that a number of these protesters were the Almajiri who had no idea why they were protesting. In 2023, our Economic Renewal Forum said poor leadership has been the major reason for the high poverty rate in northern Nigeria. So what instruments can we employ to ensure that we, maybe repurpose the Almajiri system and ensure that we give them the education that will help them out of the streets?
I think the best we can do is revert back to the President Goodluck Jonathan's pattern of the Almajiri system of modern education, where he created the Almajiri schools in the northern region, and then the coming of former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration didn't really give attention to that. At the end of the day, that policy or program died off. If that policy had been continued with, today, most of the children that we're having in the street in the name of Almajiris would have been in the Tangaya schools where Jonathan built. That is where they will have the Islamic education as well as the Western education, and also that they have been provided for or catered for. There's accommodation provision, there's feeding provision, and then and things like that. So that would have reduced greatly the number of out-of-school children in the name of Al-Majri. Al-Majri means Al-Muhajirin, that is working towards searching for knowledge, Islamic knowledge. That's the meaning of Al-Majri, Al-Muhajirin. Those that are in transit, working out, going to search for Islamic knowledge. That Jonathan's administration policy then would have assisted. And I think if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will take back that policy as abandoned by former President Muhammadu Buhari to work towards reinvigorating it and enhancing it and providing for the welfare and well-being of the out-of-school children, most especially the Al-Muhajirins that like I said, going out in the search of knowledge and providing them with the skills. I think it will reduce the influx of out-of-school children and also reduce the possibility of the time bomb that former Governor Sule of Nasarawa State has rightly put, because truly North is on a time bomb, and the last protests have indicated that, and unless and until our northern governors accept to work towards reintroducing that policy and also providing good leadership and qualitative governance, we are out for a very serious challenge.
Abdullahi Awal, we would have to interject at this point because we have to end, but thank you for joining us. You've highlighted key points we hope the government will take note of. We'll be wrapping up the show here today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Olive Emodi.
Mazino Appeal.